Hey guys, tonight we slip down into the belly of a legend. Not the shining grandeur of the grand staircase, not the string quartet gently playing under crystal light. No polished floors, no champagne flutes here. You're in third class, steerage, the very bottom of the Titanic. You won't begin this voyage with fine linens or polite applause. You'll start with the sticky fishy scent of salt-soaked wooden docks at Queenstown. The air is damp, heavy. It clings to your skin like cold breath in early morning. All around you, bodies press in, hopeful, tired, shivering. Luggage spills open underfoot. Children squirm and whine, the cold sneaking through their threadbare socks. A dog barks somewhere off behind the crates, though you're not sure if it's from excitement or dread. You're not a guest here. You're cargo. Cargo with paperwork. The ship looms above you, an iron cathedral floating in the sea. Steel ribs, endless decks, majestic they say, unsinkable they promise. But your line of people, your kind of traveler. You don't move toward the sweeping staircases or the soft velvet lounges. You're directed down the gangplanks, down the metal steps, into the bowels of the ship. The corridors are narrow, painted dull grey, a color that flakes when you touch it too long. It clings to your coat sleeve like dry ash. Your ticket one of the cheapest buys you're placed down here in third class. And the scent, it hits you before the air even changes. Imagine old boiled cabbage, stirred into the smell of damp boots, coal smoke, and the dust of half a dozen homelands, Ireland, Sweden, Syria, Sicily, and New Jersey. All of it mixed into one unforgettable perfume. You clutch your suitcase tighter, not because it's worth much, but because it holds the last little bits of your life before this one. A family stands next to you, 5 children bundled in wool shawls that have seen better winters. The mother's hands shake as she counts coins. The father stares straight ahead, jaw clenched. A priest passes by slowly nodding without speaking. No one talks loud down here, not because they're shy, but because even hope feels fragile in a place like this. You reach your cabin, or rather your cubby, a space for 4, sometimes 6. Metal bunks too high line the walls. Thin wool blankets drape across sagging mattresses. They smell faintly of salt coal, and something else, something you can't name. A single overhead bulb swings gently from a chain. When it flickers, it casts long shadows across the scuffed wooden floor. There's no welcome basket, no complimentary soap, just a small bucket for emergencies. You set your suitcase down and perch on the lower bunk. The springs groan like an old man shifting in his sleep. Somewhere down the hall, someone coughs. It echoes strangely in the tight metal corridors. You tell yourself it's just a cold. You hope it's just a cold. Then the ship's horn groans. Deep, long, ancient. It vibrates the air, shakes the walls, and seems to tickle your ribs from the inside. That's the sound of departure. The moment the dream begins. Or depending on how you look at it, the trouble. So before you settle in, take a breath. Take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And if you can leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is by your clock. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan. Let that soft hum fill the background. Let's ease into this journey together. You stay in your cabin a while. The ship sways not sharply, but just enough to remind you you're no longer on solid ground. Outside voices murmur in different tongues, Irish, Norwegian, Arabic, Sicilian. Some laugh nervously, some cry quietly. Most say nothing at all. You wander out looking for something, maybe the washroom, maybe a sign, maybe just to feel the motion of the ship more clearly. The corridors seem endless. They loop and twist, a maze of pale metal and sealed doors. The walls are painted a sickly cream. Under electric light, the color turns almost yellow. The ceilings are low. You have to duck now and then. There's no fresh air here. Only the scent of coal smoke and unwashed bodies pressed together for a week at sea. Eventually you find the shared washroom. One sink, one mirror cracked like a spider's web, and one toilet for a dozen people, maybe more. You splash your face with cold water. No towel. You dry off with your sleeve, then back to the cabin. When you return, someone else is there. His name's Daniel. He's from County Mayo. Thick Irish accent. Dirt still under his nails. He carries a loaf of bread wrapped in a bit of cheesecloth. It smells like rye and cloves. It's the best smelling thing you've encountered all day. You nod. He nods. Not much is said. Later that night, the engines growl deeper. They hum in your bones, clang and churn like a sleeping monster dreaming of storms. You try to fall asleep, but every creak reminds you. This isn't a hotel. This is the belly of something massive, something cold, something hungry. Historians still debate whether third-class passengers on Titanic were treated well by the standards of the time. The company liked to say they were. They claimed steerage here was better than second class on most other liners. But the walls still sweat. The air still stinks. And when you ask where the dining room is, someone chuckles. Eventually you find it. The third-class dining saloon. It's cleaner than expected. Whitewashed walls, benches bolted to the floor, long tables lined up like rows in a schoolroom. Everything smells like it's been boiled. Because it has. Potatoes, mutton, some kind of porridge. You eat quietly. No silverware here. No waiters. Still it's warm. And filling. You catch a glimpse of first class earlier, just a flash. A steward brushing past jacket trimmed in velvet. Silver tray in hand, lid polished to a mirror sheen. The smell that follows him. Garlic. Wine. Something roasted maybe. It clings to your nose even as he disappears. But that's not for you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. You return to your bunk. Daniel is already snoring on the upper bed. You pull the scratchy blanket over your chest. Try to tune out the sound of someone retching in the hallway. Try not to wonder if it's seasickness or something worse. Below you, deeper in the ship, you hear the rhythm of chains. The muffled thud of machinery. A heart made of fire and gears. You close your eyes. You're not seasick, not yet. But something stirs inside you, a tight knot. Not quite fear, not quite hunger. Something else. Maybe it's hope. Maybe it's the last whisper of the old world still clinging to your bones as you drift into the steel belly of something new. You wake to the gentle rattle of cutlery on metal trays. Though cutlery is a generous term, it's more of a spoon-fork hybrid, slightly bent at the neck, dulled from years of use. And later you'll learn it's welded to the table, to discourage theft. The ship creaks and groans around you as if it's still settling into its skin, still stretching its iron bones. You sit up slowly, groggy. Your forehead bumps the bunk above and you flinch. The thin wool blanket has wrapped itself around your legs like stubborn seaweed, and your mouth tastes of salt, rust, and someone else is snoring. You ease your legs over the edge of the bunk. Your bare feet meet the chill of linoleum, cold, gritty, worn from countless shoes before yours. The corridor hums quietly like a sleeping machine. A steward walks past. You don't recognize him. Tight vest, thin mustache, no name. He gives you a vague nod and waves a hand forward down the corridor. Breakfast, he mutters, like that's all the explanation you'll need. You follow the scent, though scent might be too kind. It's more of a haze, a mixture of boiled grains, sweat, and metal. The third-class dining saloon isn't what the brochures promised. 2 long rooms, whitewashed walls that have yellowed with age. Benches bolted to the floor, scratched and slick with time. The tables are communal, no tablecloths, no centerpieces. Just wood and hunger. Light filters in awkwardly through squat portholes, casting a pale grey over everything it touches. Dust floats in the beams like ghostly confetti. It's not exactly unpleasant, but it is undeniably industrial. You sit down beside a woman with strong arms and thick braids. A baby is strapped across her chest in a faded shawl. She nods once in greeting, tightening the wrap around her child. Her breakfast arrives first. Weak tea, a heel of hard bread, and something dark on a tin plate, prunes maybe. You're served the same a moment later. It looks more like rations than a meal. The bread is dense and chewy with the consistency of punishment. The tea tastes like it had a conversation with a tea bag from across the room. And the prunes are prunes. You chew in silence, trying not to react as a boy at the next table plucks a dead fly from his mug, flicking it aside with the ease of someone used to these kinds of mornings. For a moment your thoughts drift. You remember the advertisements. The posters in the immigration office. Titanic steerage accommodations hailed as superior to second class on other ships. And maybe, technically, they were. But none of those posters mentioned the smell. The constant wet wool and coal. the metallic air and the lingering tang of old cabbage that seems to cling to every breath you take. The walls here are painted with something waterproof, though it's peeling at the corners. Streaks of steam have left trails as if the room has wept for too long. The benches are sturdy but chipped, and the spoons clatter metal on metal, each bite punctuated by a dull, communal rhythm. It's not that the food is bad, it's just indifferent. Boiled porridge appears next. Pale, flavorless, neither sweet nor savory. A soft lump that sits in your stomach like a memory you can't quite forget, but you're thankful. On the ocean, even lukewarm porridge is a kind of peace. You glance around. The saloon is filled with people from everywhere. A man in a wide-brimmed hat murmurs grace in Swedish. A little girl across from him counts raisins in French. A Syrian mother breaks a boiled egg in half and gives one part to her son, her eyes soft with apology. No, this isn't fine dining. This is survival with a spoon. You adjust your plate and notice the incline of the table. Not enough to spill anything. Just enough for soup to always pull slightly to the left. You tilt your dish instinctively, and just like that, without realizing, you begin learning the rhythm of life at sea and below deck. Historians still debate whether third-class passengers were confined or allowed to roam freely. Officially, you were not a prisoner, but unofficially, you try to walk up just one deck and meet a velvet rope and a firm voice, no admittance. Some say it was for your safety. Others whisper it was about disease control. But most believe the truth was simpler. The rich didn't want to see the poor. You overhear a steward murmur something about maintaining decorum. You're not sure what that means, but it feels like code for stay out of sight. After breakfast, you return to your bunk. You pass families hunched together in narrow hallways, playing cards, sewing rocking babies, or just staring. Some sing softly, others say nothing at all. The walls sweat faintly, condensation tracing lines like invisible fingers. A single overhead lamp buzzes, swinging slightly with the motion of the ship. The floor vibrates with the low, constant throb of engines. You are in the belly of something vast, something alive. Back at your bunk, you notice Daniel's boots are gone, but their smell lingers. Moments later, he returns with a grin and a pair of slippers, old but soft. "You'll want quiet soles," he says. "Less chance of slipping on soup." You laugh. You hadn't realized soup could be a hazard. But at lunch you learn. Lamb stew, boiled potatoes, more cabbage of course. Everything arrives hot, steaming and heavy. The stewards move with military speed. Efficient, expressionless. One of them winks at a girl carrying her own tin bowl. She blushes, then slides into her seat, eyes down. You eat slowly, listening to the soft scrape of spoons, the whisper of newspapers being passed down the line, the occasional burp politely muffled behind a sleeve. Someone nearby reads aloud from a travel guide. It claims the streets of New York are paved with gold. Someone else mutters, "Hope it tastes better than this stew." You smile. But the moment fades. Your bowl is empty too soon. And though your stomach is full, you don't feel satisfied. You're not eating to enjoy. You're eating to keep going. Still, you remind yourself this is better than many. On other ships, steerage passengers brought their own food. Here at least you're fed. History books love to romanticize Titanic's third-class menu. They print it like gospel roast beef, plum pudding, vegetable stew. But they rarely mention how everything, no matter how noble the name, tasted like it had been boiled into submission. After lunch, you walk the corridor again. Your belly full, your thoughts drifting. The air here feels thicker, the ceiling lower. Pipes run along the walls, rattling every few minutes. You feel like you're inside a metal lung, breathing in steel and steam. You pass a young couple arguing in hushed tones. It's about money, or onions, or both. You don't stop. Later dinner arrives with the same clatter, the same bowls, the same stew. But tonight there's bread, and it's soft. A rare moment of joy. You take your time with it, letting each bite linger, tearing it slowly, savoring. You imagine what first class must be having. Lobsters, cream soups, wine that sparkles, music that comes from the ceiling, but only for a moment, because here in the underbelly, you eat quickly. You nod to the cook who doesn't look up, and you return to your bunk. Daniel is already half asleep, his slippers resting neatly by the wall. The blanket feels a little less itchy tonight, or maybe you're just used to it. Your stomach is quiet now, but your mind isn't. You close your eyes, not thinking about stew, not about porridge, not even about bread. You dream of what comes after this, of streets paved with gold, of jobs and letters home, of warm rooms and clean clothes. You don't know it yet, but the best meal you'll have on this ship is behind you. And the worst night of your life is on its way. The morning light doesn't quite reach your bunk. It filters through a rust-speckled porthole and a thin haze of coal dust, turning everything around you a soft, dull grey. You wake slowly, unsure whether it's truly day, or just the flickering of overhead lamps pretending to be sunlight. Either way, your stomach is already growling. The hunger pulls you upright. Blankets are tangled at your feet. The bunk creaks as you shift, and the air, it's heavy, slightly damp, tinged with iron and steam. You follow the sound of footsteps down the corridor. The ship is fully awake now. You hear the steady thud of feet on metal floors, soft voices in every language you can think of, and deeper still, the drone of machinery that doesn't sleep. Something older, colder, deeper than anything human. You pass a family sitting in silence in the hallway, a father tying his son's shoes, a woman plaiting her hair, someone reciting a prayer beneath their breath. The third-class dining saloon smells different in the morning. Less stew, more starch. There's a faint sweetness in the air, maybe prunes again, maybe raisins if you're lucky. You slide into your usual bench, shoulders brushing strangers on either side. Some familiar now, some new. There are no menus here, no servers asking what you'd like. The food arrives when it does, and you take what's given. Today's breakfast is porridge, again. Thick and beige, served with a small dollop of something yellowish on top. Maybe it's butter, maybe it's not. You don't ask, you just stir, blow gently on the spoon, and eat. It's warm, it's bland, but it fills the silence. Across from you, a boy eyes your crust of bread. He tries to swap his spoon for another boy's heel of bread. The trade fails. He sulks. You break off your own piece, hard, crusty, uneven, but real. You slide it across to him. His face lights up, like it's Christmas. There's no music here, no elegant clink of silverware, no soft laughter over white tablecloths, just a symphony of survival spoons scraping metal bowls, chairs creaking under shifting weight, a baby fussing 2 tables over. The baby's mother bounces him gently. She whispers in Polish, offering a corner of biscuit to quiet him. You glance over and realize she's eaten nothing herself. A steward stands at the far end of the room. He's tall, sallow, with a ragged moustache and the slow, careful gait of someone who's worked too many voyages. He wipes a table absently, then coughs into his sleeve. A sharp, wet cough. You watch the motion, uneasy. Someone nearby whispers the word. Consumption. You've heard it before. In books it sounds romantic. Pale cheeks and tragic endings. But here, in real life, it's something else entirely. It's a warning. Historians still argue whether Titanic's third-class dining was unusually generous, or just clever marketing. There were tables, yes, benches, proper meals, served 3 times a day, no extra charge, but they don't often mention how quickly those dining rooms could start to feel like hospitals, or worse, holding cells. You try not to think too hard about it. Daniel slides into the seat beside you. He grins, rubbing his hands together. Lunch will be mutton, he says. Boiled, of course. He rolls his eyes. Always boiled. We'll all be steamed like puddings by the time we reach America. You laugh despite yourself. But he's right. You're already sweating just from sitting near the galley. The heat snakes down the walls. Heavy, wet. You loosen your collar, and then your belt. Just slightly. At noon, the lunch line begins to form. Long before the food even appears. People are learning the rhythm now. Some guard the good seats by the portholes or closest to the steward's window. Others linger at the back, waiting to see what's left. Your tray arrives. Mutton with a thin grey gravy. Potatoes boiled and peeled. Cabbage again. Always the cabbage. Its scent clings to your hands, your clothes, even your dreams. One child further down the row has started calling it ocean lettuce. You smile at that. Still the food is warm. And for now, there's enough. You find a spot beside a German woman and her teenage daughter. They speak softly, only to each other. They pass a small salt packet between them, not real salt, just some kind of mineral blend. But it's enough to make the potatoes taste like something more than paste. The girl points upward. Condensation has started to drip from a joint in the ceiling. Her mother calmly sets a spoon on the table to catch the drops, then shifts her bowl just slightly. It's a dance of constant adjustments, life in third class. At the far end of the table, a man pushes peas into a line with his fork. They say the icebergs are as big as cathedrals, he says, tall as towers. But the crew says not to worry. They've got spotters, lights, all that. The woman across from you doesn't look reassured. You aren't sure you are either. By late afternoon, the air in the corridors has thickened. The ship hums around you, beneath your feet, inside the walls, even in your bones. A deep, steady rhythm. A metal heartbeat pushing forward through cold, endless water. You pass the galley. A door swings open just briefly. Inside, you see huge pots, steam rising like smoke signals. A man shouting in a thick accent. The roar of fire. And motion. So much motion. One of the stewards drops a pan. It skitters across the floor, boiled onions, scattering like marbles. No one laughs. No one stops. The pace resumes instantly, as if the accident never happened. Dinner is a surprise. Something close to shepherd's pie, but with more potato than anything else. Still, it's baked, not boiled. A rare gift. The top is slightly golden, just a little crust. You savor it slowly, letting each bite linger, like it might be the last good thing you'll taste for a very long time. Somewhere down the corridor, someone begins to play a fiddle, a low, mournful tune. It drifts through the air like a ghost's lullaby, soft and steady. It makes the food taste warmer somehow, makes the company feel less temporary. Across the room, someone tells a joke in Spanish. You don't catch the words, but the rhythm is clear. It's funny, whatever it is. Laughter ripples across the saloon. Not loud, but real, like waves breaking softly on a shore. And for a moment, just a moment, you forget about the damp floors, the rickety benches, the bruises on your hip from the bunk's hard edge. You forget the hunger that never really leaves. You feel human again. Later that night, you return to your cabin. The light bulb hums overhead, dim, but steady. Your blanket is still twisted from the night before. You stretch it over your legs, tucking it in around your feet. Your body aches, but not unpleasantly. The air feels lighter now. Maybe it's the pie, maybe it's the music, or maybe it's just a moment of calm quiet and brief before something else begins. Daniel is already snoring. A soft, familiar rhythm. You lie there, eyes open, listening, not just to the ship, but to everything. The breathing around you. So many dreams packed into such a small space. Hopes wrapped in blankets that smell faintly of salt and cabbage and coal. You close your eyes, already knowing exactly what breakfast will taste like. But still, you dream of something better, of warm bread, real butter, and sunlight that isn't pretending. There's a rhythm to third-class life aboard the Titanic. It creeps into your bones, into your breath, into your very footsteps on the damp steel floor. Wake, eat, wait, eat again, wait some more. You begin to notice patterns. Faces that were strangers just days ago now feel oddly familiar. A girl with a pink kerchief always guards the far end of the bench, her back to the wall, like she's protecting something. A Welsh miner, his hands blackened with soot, sits in silence beside his young son. The boy never speaks. He just doodles ships in the condensation on the tabletop, tracing funnels and waves with his fingertip again and again. And over near the hatch, there's a Romanian couple who always arrive last. Always eat the fastest. Their forks move like clock hands, fast, and precise, as though they're racing the room. No one says much. But more and more often, you find yourself nodding hello. A shared glance, a tight smile. It's strange how quickly this floating metal maze becomes a world of its own. Today, lunch is boiled beef. Brown gravy thick like varnish tries to make it look better than it tastes. The beef is tough, but at least it's hot. Potatoes are back again. Carrots too, if you're lucky. You are just barely. 2 slivers float near the edge of your plate. They look like lifeboats. Tiny orange boats bobbing in a sea of gravy and boiled meat. The dining saloon hums around you. It's not noisy, not quiet, just a constant thrum cutlery, tapping metal plates, chairs scraping across the floor, the soft rustle of people surviving. Above your table, you notice something new. A crack in the ceiling. Hairline thin, but definitely spreading. From it, a slow drip begins. Regular. Almost musical. No one says anything. Someone just places a tin cup beneath it. That's life down here. You don't complain, you adapt, or you go hungry. There's talk at the table today. Not loud. More like worry, whispered through tired mouths. Someone claims they saw a first-class woman walking a dog on the upper deck. A real dog. Tiny, fluffy, wrapped in some kind of coat. You picture it. A trembling little thing, paws barely touching polished wood, getting more sunlight than you've seen in 4 days. Halfway through your stew, Daniel leans over. "Guess what I heard," he says, eyes gleaming. His voice drops like he's delivering state secrets. "They've got oysters up there," he says. "Real oysters. Served on silver trays." You blink. "Oysters on a ship," he nods, solemn, grim, almost reverent. "And champagne," he adds. Can't even spell it. But they serve it cold. You laugh. Mouth full of beef. Not because it's funny, but because it's true. Somewhere above you, oysters are being swallowed whole. Down here, your stew still has bones. Some historians will later say that steerage passengers weren't truly locked away, that they could walk about, that the separation was social, not enforced. But here on this cold, echoing deck, it feels like a soft fence surrounds you. An invisible wall of glances, accents, and silences. You try once, just to see. You head toward a staircase in the back corridor. Not boldly, just casual, exploring. A man in uniform steps into view. Not cruel, not loud, just firm. He taps the railing with his fingers and says, "Sorry." Dining hours upstairs. Not for steerage. You nod, smile like you understand, then turn around. But just before you do, you smell something. Buttery, soft, something warm. It drifts down the stairwell like a ghost of better meals. Your stomach clenches in quiet betrayal. Dinner is fish tonight. Baked, not fried. Served with boiled rice and what might have once been peas. You eat slowly. Even the talkative ones are quieter now. There's a child nearby. He's coughing. A dry, raspy sound that echoes too loudly in the tight space. His mother folds a blanket around him. Whispers lullabies in a language you don't understand. Tries water. Then warmth. Then a biscuit. Nothing helps. The steward walks past. He doesn't stop. Doesn't look. You keep chewing. You taste guilt with every bite. After dinner, something changes. The benches become story circles. Corners of the saloon glow with little groups of people swapping tales from back home. A white-haired man claims he once shared a carriage with the Emperor of Austria. A younger one swears the Statue of Liberty blinked at him on his last voyage. You don't believe any of it, but that's not the point. Belief isn't what you need. Hope is. Someone pulls out a harmonica. A girl begins to hum. The tune is slow, like the sea rocking the hull beneath your boots. For a little while, it doesn't feel like a ship. It feels like a hearth, a warm kitchen, a night by the fire. You almost forget the metal walls, the thin mattresses, the rations. You feel soft, safe. Then the overhead lamps flicker. Once, twice, and it all fades. You stand and make your way back toward the cabin. The corridor seems tighter tonight, as if the walls have drawn in while you weren't looking. The air smells heavier. Less sea, more sweat. Your boots stick faintly to the damp floor with each step. Squish, lift, repeat. As you reach your bunk, you glance across the hall. A family is sorting through a half-open trunk. Loaves of bread, tinned meat, 3 jars of pickles tucked carefully into a wool scarf. You don't ask how they smuggled it aboard. You just nod and look away. Daniel's already asleep, one arm dangling off the bunk, blanket twisted around his knees. His socks are patched, ankles crossed like a child. You lie back. The mattress squeaks softly beneath you, and you listen. The ship speaks in groans and rattles, a hum that never stops, a distant clang, the heartbeat of something massive moving through the cold dark. Far above, crystal glasses clink. Candles flicker beside oysters. You close your eyes and imagine it. A banquet table, silver trays, napkins folded like swans, chandeliers, strawberries. You dream of strawberries. Tomorrow the air will feel colder. The saloon will smell like onions again. Someone new will be coughing. And no one, not one soul, will be talking about oysters. But tonight, for a few quiet hours, you let yourself drift, float through velvet dreams, taste things that never touched your lips, dance in rooms you'll never see. You sleep like someone who still believes that hope is enough. The days blur on board. You don't remember what day it is. Or how many have passed since you left port? Time drifts here, like mist on the sea. It isn't measured by clocks. It's measured by other things. By meals. By footsteps in the corridor. By how many times you've washed your shirt in the tiny sink and hung it above your bunk to dry. Morning again. Porridge again. You eat slowly this time, letting the heat move through you, spreading warmth into your chest like a coal stove on a frozen morning, the kind your grandfather used to light before the sun came up. Across from you, a small boy balances a crust of bread on the tip of his spoon. His mother gently swats his hand. Then, quietly, she pushes her portion across the table. He hesitates, then takes it. She smiles. You notice she doesn't eat anything else. You look down at your own plate. There's not much left, just a heel of bread. You offer it to her. She blinks, then nods. No words are exchanged, only eyes, only a moment. But that's enough. Third class was advertised as modern, even comfortable, and in many ways, it is. Flush toilets, electric lights, fresh linens once a week. It's more than you expected. But comfort is a flexible thing. It bends around what you're used to, and it breaks if leaned on too hard. After breakfast, you wander. Further down the corridor this time. Past sleeping passengers. Past doors you've never opened, past the smell of salt and coal. The deeper you go, the heavier the air becomes. The ocean fades. The engines rise. You can almost taste the coal dust. Feel it clinging to your tongue. You find a laundry room. Not the steward's one, but a small unofficial place for passengers. 2 cracked basins, a crooked clothesline, and an iron so old it looks like it came over on a Viking ship. A woman is bent over the wash basin scrubbing a child's undershirt. Her hands are calloused, her sleeves rolled high. She hums softly, a tune from somewhere far away, somewhere cold. She nods as you pass. You nod back, and for a second the silence between you feels like friendship. Historians still argue were third-class passengers truly confined below deck, or did they simply choose not to wander, but down here in these low-lit corridors? You understand that the question isn't about permission, it's about presence. You don't go where you're not wanted. You don't linger where no one meets your eyes. You stay where you belong, even if that place is shrinking. Lunch comes, stew again, this time with barley and turnips. The meat is stringy but hot. It fills the empty space. You sit beside Daniel and 2 newcomers, a young couple from Galway, both red-haired, both soft-spoken, married 3 weeks, headed to Chicago. She talks about the future like it's a quilt she's halfway done sewing. We'll get a small place, she says, eyes far away. He'll find work in a factory. I'll open a seamstress shop, just for women's things. Nothing too grand. You nod, you smile, you believe her, because she needs you to. Daniel's got different dreams. Me, he grins, mouth full of turnip. I'll be rich in a year. Not working, no sir. I'll own a bakery, or a pub. I'll have a fat golden dog, name him Henry, and feed him ham for breakfast every single day. He winks, you all laugh. Someone drops a spoon. It hits the floor metal on metal. Loud, sharp, like a bell inside a cave. No one speaks for a moment. Then a voice mutters from farther down the table. Even dogs will eat better than us. Upstairs. You glance down, at the stew, at the bread, at the thin broth that smells like yesterday's leftovers. You don't say it, but it's true. Dinner arrives late. There was some delay in the galley. When it does come, the portions are smaller than yesterday. Mashed turnips, something soft and pale that might be veal, or maybe just stew reshaped into new words. You eat it anyway, because that's what you do down here. You don't wait for better, you take what's given. Across the room, the baby is crying again. The cough has worsened. His cheeks are red, his breath raspy. His mother presses a cloth to his forehead and rocks him gently. She sings in a language you don't understand. A lullaby older than the ship, older than the ocean. The steward avoids her table, pretends not to see. You wonder, will someone come, a doctor, a nurse, anyone, but no one does. Daniel leans close again, his voice low. Heard we're halfway now. Just a few more days, then land, then real food. You nod. You don't know if it's true, but it's a good lie. And down here, good lies are worth keeping. Later that night, a game breaks out in the corridor. Cards. A few coins glint in the middle of a wool scarf. Not much, but enough to make it interesting. You watch for a while. The players look serious, focused, like gamblers in a smoky saloon. One woman plays with a baby on her lap. She wins 2 hands in a row. The baby gurgles, delighted. She smiles. It feels like magic just for a second. But you don't stay. You leave before the game ends. There's something heavy in your chest. Not sadness, not exactly. More like, wait, like you've picked up someone else's story and forgotten how to put it down. Back in your cabin, the air feels colder. You pull the blanket up to your chin. The ship creaks softly as if it's whispering secrets to the sea. Daniel mumbles in his sleep. You catch a name. Someone not here. Someone he misses. You close your eyes and imagine Chicago, Boston, somewhere with trees that bloom in spring, somewhere with music in the streets, with bright shop windows and crusty loaves of bread behind the glass. You picture a bakery, golden rolls, butter warm on your fingers, a woman's voice calling your name. You drift. The lights flicker once, but you don't wake. The ship groans louder, but you sleep through it. You breathe slow and steady, like someone who truly believes that tomorrow will be better, because that's how you survive in third class. Not with certainty, not with comfort, not with fairness, but with something smaller, softer. One bowl of porridge, one whispered dream, one more night. The ship sways a little harder today. It's not violent, no waves crashing against windows, no furniture skidding across the floor, but it's just enough to throw you slightly off balance, enough to make the porridge slosh sideways in the bowl, enough to send your slice of bread tipping until it lands face down on the steel floor with a quiet plop. You stoop to pick it up, brush it off with the side of your hand, and eat it anyway. Daniel catches your eye across the table. He grins. 5-second rule still counts in the Atlantic, yeah. You shrug and smile. No point being squeamish, not here. Not when you're living on gristle and hope. As always, the breakfast conversation drifts back to food. Not the food in front of you, but the food from another life. Somewhere warm, somewhere safe. Bacon sizzling in a cast iron pan. Tomatoes fried in butter. Eggs with golden yolks soft and runny. A boy from Lancashire closes his eyes and describes his grandmother's meat pies. His voice slow and reverent. The table falls quiet to listen. Thick crust, he says. Peppery beef inside. Carrots so soft you could mash them with a blink. You swear you can smell it. Everyone else must smell it too. Heads nod, eyes glaze, and someone sighs. Your stomach growls loud enough to make Daniel snort into his porridge. But somehow, there's comfort in the hunger. Talking about food makes you feel full. Not in your belly maybe, but somewhere deeper. Somewhere that matters more. After breakfast, something rare happens. You find yourself above deck. You're not really supposed to be there. Not officially. But a steward is busy helping a pregnant woman and her husband, and you slip behind them, walking just slow enough to seem like you belong. Hands in your pockets. Chin raised. Eyes forward. Like this part of the ship knows your name. Then the air hits you. Cold. Sharp. Clean. A slap. And a kiss. You didn't realize how warm it was down below. How stale the breath of the ship had become. Up here, the sky is a cold steel blue. The wind finds your cheeks and whistles past your collar. Salt clings to your tongue. The Atlantic stretches in every direction. Grey, vast, endless. For a moment, the ship feels impossibly small. A handful of third-class passengers huddle near a railing. Most keep to themselves. One man stands stiff, scanning the horizon like it's hiding something. His wife clutches a folded handkerchief to her lips, knuckles white with worry. You take a deep breath, and for the first time in days, you feel something real in your lungs. Not steam, not boiled cabbage, not pipe-warmed air, but sea air. Raw, bracing, honest. That's when you hear it. Music. Faint and lovely a violin, maybe two. Notes drift down from somewhere above. Second class, perhaps. A quartet playing something soft and slow. It threads its way through the wind, dancing between gusts like a dream refusing to let go. Daniel appears beside you. Better than the harmonica, he mutters. You chuckle softly, but deep down you know he's right. Back below the walls seem closer than before. The lights dimmer, the air heavier. It's as if the ship has pulled inward, shrinking, breathing smaller. Or maybe it's just your eyes still full of sky. Lunch is served. Cold roast beef, dry bread, Pickled beetroot that's oddly sweet. You chew slowly. No one speaks. Then you notice something. The boy with the cough. He's not here. Nor is his mother. No one says it. But everyone notices. Forks pause in mid-air. Glances shift to the empty seats. The silence lengthens. Historians still debate it. Whether Titanic's third-class passengers were willfully neglected or if the sheer size of the ship left invisible cracks. But here, this absence doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like a shadow, a silent warning. You push your plate away, your appetite lost to the chill in your chest. That afternoon, you write a letter. Not because you expect it to arrive, but because something inside you needs to speak. You find a quiet corner, pull out a scrap of paper, dip the pen. Dear Ma, the ship is big. Bigger than I imagined. The water looks like slate. I ate carrots yesterday. Daniel says he'll name his dog after me. Tell Bridget I miss her. You trail off. Stare at the ink. The ship's movement nudges your wrist, pulling your letters sideways. You fold the paper. Tuck it into your coat pocket. Close to your chest. Dinner comes. Quiet. Slower than before. Not just the food, but the people. Conversations drift faint and half-formed. Maybe it's the weather. Maybe it's the boy. Maybe it's the weight of too many meals that don't quite satisfy. You try to break the spell. What if we're being watched, you say, by fish who think we're the strange ones? Someone snorts. A laugh. A small one. Then another voice. They're probably taking bets on who drops their spoon first. And then another. They say if you drop your spoon 3 times, Neptune sends a wave to fetch you. This time the laughter is warmer. A ripple. A real smile passed from face to face. The mood lifts just enough. Enough to eat. Enough to finish. Afterwards you climb the stairs again. The air is colder. Sharper now. But the stars. The stars are waiting. So many. More than you've ever seen. They shine like frost on black velvet. Each one bright, each one a pinprick of ancient light. You stare until your eyes water. Daniel shivers next to you. They say you can see America from here. You glance sideways. Who's they bloke I met? Had a funny hat. You both burst out laughing, and for a moment the cold fades. Down the corridor, someone starts to sing. A lullaby, or maybe a prayer. The voice is low and tired, but full of something older than weariness. Something gentle. Later in your bunk, you lie awake, listening to the distant hum of engines, to the creak of metal, to the heartbeat of the Titanic herself. You pull the blanket higher. You imagine your mother's hands tucking you in, her voice whispering, "Soon it will all be different." You want to believe her. You close your eyes, and for just a little while the sway of the ship becomes a cradle, and sleep takes you soft and slow like a story without an ending. The morning begins with a jolt, not a violent one, just a sudden stillness, as if the great ship has paused right in the middle of a breath, drawn in but not yet released. You sit up in your bunk blinking at the dim light. Was that real or just something in a dream? For a moment everything is hushed. Even the ocean seems to hold its tongue. You wonder, has the sea gone glassy? Is this the eerie calm old sailors whisper about? You swing your legs over the edge of the bed. The floor is cold as always. You pull on your boots and jacket and head toward breakfast. It's just like yesterday. Porridge warm but watery. A few dried prunes. Bread that's turned a little tougher overnight. No one complains, but no one smiles either. The air in the dining room feels different, muted, like it's trying not to disturb something. Daniel stirs his porridge without looking up. His spoon makes slow circles as though he's trying to read the future in the oats. Had a dream last night, he murmurs. We got to New York, but I'd forgotten my name. Walked around the whole city, but nobody knew who I was, and I didn't either. You look over at him, raising an eyebrow. And what did you do? He shrugs, lips twitching into a smile. Went to a bakery anyway. You chuckle softly, but the moment fades. That stillness is still there, like something folded into the corners of the room. A silence that's not quite peace. After breakfast, you wander the corridor. You pass the bunk where the sick boy used to sleep. It's empty now, sheets gone, just a bare mattress. You stop, stare, then move on. But something lingers, a question with no answer. A story that ended too quietly. Historians still debate whether third-class passengers received proper care. Some say there were nurses who made regular rounds. Others claim the truth was murkier, hidden behind language barriers, behind class walls, behind the noise of 100 different stories. You wonder what happened to the boy's mother. Was she alone? Did anyone sit with her? Did anyone even know? Later, as you walk down the corridor again, you notice something strange. The floor feels different. Not wet, not rough, just oddly hollow, as if the space beneath your feet is deeper than before. You press on, past the laundry room, past closed doors you've never seen open. At lunchtime, word spreads through whispers. A boiler man was scalded. Badly, they say. The stew is thin again, more broth than anything else. But someone finds a sliver of beef in their bowl with a bit of fat still clinging to it. It becomes the talk of the table, the luxury bite. Laughter follows, small but sincere. Across from you, the Galway couple sits in silence. The woman has deep shadows under her eyes. She leans forward slightly. "We heard something strange last night," she says. Hammering, like someone fixing something. But it was late, very late. Daniel nods slowly. "I heard it too. Figured maybe the crew dropped something." The Galway man shakes his head. It wasn't just a bang, it was rhythmic, like someone patching a crack. A pause follows. You all sit in that space for a beat too long. Then someone tries to break the tension. Maybe a stowaway was building his own lifeboat. A few chuckles, but they don't last. After lunch, you don't return to your bunk. Instead, you walk, down long passages, past familiar turns, past the barred gate that separates third from second class. You pause there. The barrier is simple but firm, a line that can't be crossed. A steward sees you looking. He doesn't speak, just shakes his head politely. You nod. Step back, not angry, not even disappointed, just curious. What's it like up there? Do they feel it too? That quiet tension, that strange careful hush. Are they asking the same questions, or do they sleep easier, never hearing the hammering beneath their feet? You turn down a side stairwell. It's dimly lit, unused. A small family sits quietly on the steps. Mother, father, two little girls. They're whispering in a language you don't understand. The mother's face is pale. The father's eyes keep glancing behind them. You offer a smile. They don't return it. You nod and move on. Dinner is served earlier than usual. Unusual. You hear whispers. The galley crew wants more time for cleaning tonight. Others say they're simply exhausted. But Daniel leans in close and says they know something. You glance at the stewards. He's right. They do. They move differently. Quickly, efficiently, but with too much quiet between their words. The food is nothing special. Boiled cabbage, a pale slab of something they say is lamb. No one complains. No one leaves anything behind. Afterward, you hear it music. A fiddle, sharp and clear. Down the corridor, a young man is spinning a little girl around in circles. She laughs. A pure, bright sound. Others gather. Feet begin to stomp. Hands clap against metal rails. Someone taps a spoon against a pan. Someone sings in Gaelic. Another joins in with a harmony. You find yourself smiling, then clapping, then moving. It's not elegant, not graceful, but it's defiant. A dance against the silence, against the dread, against whatever it is that no one is saying. For a little while, the air lightens. Joy raw and imperfect fills the hallway like sunlight. For a moment, you forget to worry. But later, when the laughter fades, when your boots are off and your blanket is pulled to your chin, the stillness returns, heavier than before. The ship is moving, yes, but too smoothly, too quietly, like it's gliding on tiptoes. You lie in bed, listening, to your own heartbeat, to Daniel breathing beside you, to the hush of a ship that sounds like it's holding its breath. You close your eyes. You picture the stars above the deck, sharp and silver and endless. You think of fresh bread still warm from the oven. You imagine someone waiting at a dock, their hand raised, their eyes searching the horizon for your face. You don't know what's coming, but you hope deeply, fiercely that you'll see them soon. You hold that hope like a candle, close to your chest, letting its warmth push back the dark, and slowly, gently, you let sleep carry you away. Something's wrong. You feel it before you understand it. Not with the ship itself, not yet, but with the air. It's midnight, or close to it. Most third-class passengers are in bed by now. Some still hum lullabies to soothe fussy children. Others toss and turn murmuring through their dreams. A few snore gently, their breathing a slow rhythm that almost comforts. But you're awake, and something feels off. The air is still, too still, colder than before. And not in the usual way. Not the chill of night on the sea, but something sharper, stranger. There's a quiet in the hallway, not peaceful, but empty, like a vacuum, as if the walls themselves are holding their breath, listening. Then a sound, a thud, not loud, not metallic, but wrong, like something heavy meeting something solid. You sit up. Daniel's already awake beside you, blinking toward the door. "What was that?" he asks, voice low. You shrug, but your shoulders feel stiff. "Don't know. Maybe a crate fell." But you don't believe that. And neither does he. Voices begin to stir. The corridor comes to life slowly, cautiously. Doors creak open. Faces appear. Sleepy-eyed. Nervous. A baby starts to cry somewhere nearby. Someone mutters, "Was it the engine?" Then footsteps. Quick ones. Boots moving briskly along the passage. You poke your head out the door. A steward passes by, not running but fast enough to notice. "Everything all right, sir?" You call after him. He doesn't stop. "Go back to sleep," he says over his shoulder. "Nothing to worry about." But he's walking too fast, for nothing. Moments later, another voice joins the uneasy chorus. An older man in long underwear and unlaced boots shuffles into the hallway. "I swear I heard grinding," he says, like ice against metal. Ice. Your stomach tightens. You remember something you read once, that the lookouts had no binoculars. Historians still debate it. Would it have mattered? The night is moonless. The sea is too calm to splash against the berg. The ice would be dark, blending in with the black water. Still, some say the warnings had come. Messages from other ships. Warnings that weren't passed on in time. Mistakes. Missed chances. Pride. Protocol. You step into the corridor. Daniel throws on a coat beside you. "Let's go topside." Technically, you're not supposed to, but no one's stopping you now. The stewards have vanished. The rules feel thin tonight. The atmosphere has shifted, like something invisible is turning the air inside out. You head for the narrow stairwell. Halfway up, you meet a steward coming down. He looks flustered, not panicked, but sweating, even in the cold. He blocks your way for a moment. "Back down, please," he says. No need for excitement. "What happened?" Daniel asks. The steward hesitates, just for a second, but it's too long. Then just a precaution. "Please return to your rooms." He disappears before you can ask more. But you don't turn back. You keep climbing. One level, then another, then you're outside, and the cold hits you like a slap. Not wind, just raw air. Frozen, still, sharp. It sinks into your bones, tightens your lungs. You gasp, then look out. And there it is, a mountain of ice, floating, silent, towering in the moonlight. You've never seen anything like it. Pale blue, glowing silver, almost beautiful, almost unreal. You've missed the moment of collision. Whatever happened, it's already over. But the iceberg is still there, slowly fading behind the ship's wake. Daniel whispers, "We hit that." You nod. Crewmen move quickly around you. Buckets, ropes, urgent voices, shouts but not from fear. Orders. Activity. Below you, the passengers are still unaware. You head back inside. The corridors are fuller now, crowded. The rumor has taken root. An iceberg, someone says. A collision, whispers another. Emergency, but no one really believes it. Not yet. No one said abandon ship, a man near you mutters, so it can't be that bad. If it was serious, a woman adds, we'd feel it. There'd be a tilt, and part of you wants to agree. After all, the ship still feels steady. There's no lean, no sirens, no chaos, just that cold. That creeping cold working its way in through every crack, every seam in the steel. You drift toward the stairwell again, watching. Crewmen are moving faster now. Some carry life jackets, others carry lists. Others just look grim. The Galway couple stands nearby, the woman clutching her shawl. The man, her husband, is speaking urgently to a steward. "We have children," he says. "Please, we need to know if we're safe." The steward looks at him, then a pause, a nod. "Calm," he says. "Bring them." They vanish into the maze of corridors. You and Daniel stay behind. Still no clear instructions, no announcement, only murmurs, uncertainty, and the memory of that ice still floating behind your eyes. Down the corridor, a man packs a small suitcase. Another lights a pipe, his fingers trembling so badly he nearly drops the match. A little girl asks quietly, "Are we going to die?" No one answers. No one can. Time begins to slip. You don't know how long you stand there. Minutes, an hour, then a bell. Not shrill, not frantic, but clear, final. Something changes. Stewards return, many now. Voices firm, movements sharp. Life jackets on, they say. Everyone to the upper deck. Stay calm. You and Daniel lock eyes. No more doubt now. You duck under the bunk, pull out your jacket. Canvas, stiff. The straps clumsy. Your fingers shake as you tie them. You don't feel scared. Not exactly. More, removed. Floating. The corridors fill. People spill from rooms. A low tide of feet and voices. Children cry. A woman prays aloud in Irish. And then you feel it. The ship tilts. Barely. A whisper of a tilt. But enough. Enough to throw your balance off. Enough to feel it in your knees. Someone stumbles. Another grabs the wall. That's when the panic truly begins. Not in screams, but in motion. In the surge, the push, the quiet stampede. You grab Daniel's sleeve. Let's go. The hallway narrows not by size, but by pressure. Bodies pressing forward. Toward the stairs. Toward the open night above. Some cry. Others are silent as if walking in a trance. Sleepwalkers, on a ship no longer sleeping. You climb, step after step, boots scuffing against metal. You glance back one last time, at the hallway, at the bunks, at the place that was your home just hours ago. Now, it already feels like memory. The voices behind you fade. The ship creaks softly beneath your feet. You know, though no one says it, that everything is different now, and nothing will ever be the same again. You squeeze through the narrow stairwell, shoulder to shoulder with dozens of others. The air is heavy now, not with smoke, but with breath. Steam rising from mouths, sweat clinging to brows. That same sharp cold wrapping around every exposed finger, every unbuttoned collar. The metal rail is icy under your palm. Daniel is still just ahead. His hair is damp from sweat. His life jacket isn't tied properly. You reach for the loose strap, fumbling to tighten it. But he just gives you a tight smile. "Close enough, right?" he murmurs. You don't answer. The top of the stairwell is blocked. An iron gate, thick, heavy, unmoving. It's meant to separate the classes. And right now it's locked. For a few seconds, people simply stare, as if willing it to open on its own, as if pity could melt iron. Then someone yells, "Open it!" A steward appears on the other side. Young, pale, sweating even in the cold. He looks overwhelmed. "We need clearance," he stammers. "Just wait there," but no one is waiting anymore. A man pushes forward. "My daughter's up there," another shouts. "They've already started the boats." The steward tries to calm them, his voice rising, then swallowed by the swell of panic. A woman begins to sob. Her arms clutch a toddler barefoot, shivering. Finally someone shouts, "To hell with this," and throws himself at the gate. It rattles, loud, metal on metal. A child screams. Historians still debate what really happened at those gates. Were they locked by deliberate command, or just left unmanned in the chaos? Some claim the officers enforced order. Others whisper darker motives, that class came first, that survival came second. But the truth, as it always does, slips quietly between memory and myth. The gate doesn't hold long. Someone produces a wrench, or maybe a pipe. No one's quite sure, but suddenly there's a sharp crack the lock gives, and the flood begins. You're swept into the tide, up the stairs, out into the cold. The deck is chaos, but not screaming chaos, not yet. Just movement, urgent, purposeful. Dozens, no hundreds, are already there. People wrapped in coats and blankets, clusters gathering near lifeboats, crewmen shouting instructions. Some hold back the crowd, others load the boats. Every voice feels like it's speaking over the sound of water rising in the dark. And always that subtle tilt beneath your feet, that gentle lean, like the ship is tired. Or listening. You cling to Daniel's arm. The stars above are painfully sharp, clear, distant, and endless. The iceberg is long gone, drifting back into shadow. But the ocean, it stretches in all directions. A black mirror, still, waiting. And Titanic, she still looms, her hull rising like a cliff. Proud, wounded. You approach one of the lifeboats. There's a line. Tense, still growing. Women and children only, someone says. A steward steps forward, his voice firm but tired. Men to wait. Women and children first. You glance around. A young mother stumbles forward. Her child cries not from fear, but for a toy she left behind. Another woman refuses. I'm not going without my husband, the crewman begs her. Please, miss, it's procedure. She digs in her heels. She's dragged aboard, twisting. Her voice disappears as the boat is lowered. Daniel nudges you. That's your cue, yeah? You laugh, but it's dry, bitter. You see any children in my arms? He shrugs. Honorary then. You shake your head. Still you help. You lift a little girl with a broken shoe. You steady an old woman whose knees tremble. You hold the hand of a boy no more than 7 while his sister works up the courage to step forward. The boat lowers, a creak of ropes, a hiss of pulleys, the faint slap of water below. Another handful of souls descend into the waiting dark. A steward near you wipes his eyes. Not enough, he mutters. And it's true. There aren't enough boats. Everyone knows it now. There's no hiding it, no softening it. The numbers don't lie. Even if they're packed full, which most are not, there's room for maybe half, maybe less. You step back from the rail. Daniel's beside you again. We'll wait for the next one, he says. But you both know the next one might never come. Then music. Soft, strange, graceful. A band begins to play. You can't see them from here, but the notes drift across the deck. A waltz, slow and steady. You almost laugh. Not from joy, but disbelief. At the gentleness, the calm, the strange elegance of it all. Someone whispers, they're playing to keep us calm. Someone else answers, they're playing because they know. And the music plays on. Titanic groans beneath your feet. A sound like breath drawn in deep. Heavy. Warning. She's sinking. Not like in the books. Not fast. Not violently. But slowly. Terribly. You hear another boat drop. More creaking. More shouting. A splash. Then silence. The stars keep watching. You hug your coat closer. Your hands are stiff. Numb. You want tea. Soup. Anything warm. But all you have is air. Bitter. Sharp. Filling your lungs like ice. Someone says there's an hour left. Maybe 2. Others insist rescue is on the way. The signals are out. Other ships will come. They have to. This is Titanic. She can't disappear. You and Daniel drift toward the forward deck. There's a lifeboat above still hanging. Still empty. You look up. Could you jump? Could you survive it? Would they let you in? You don't know, so you don't jump. You wait. You breathe. You watch. The deck grows quieter despite the numbers. No one's shouting now. Only the crew. Only the sea. The band still plays soft like a cradle song for the dying. Daniel's hand finds yours. Cold fingers. Clumsy. You squeeze once. Hard. Just to feel something. He doesn't let go. You listen. To the music. To the ship. To your own heart beating in time with the end. And the waltz goes on. The music drifts across the tilted deck like a lullaby played too late. It floats in the air light, and tragic refusing to stop, as if the melody itself might hold the ship together for just a little longer. You stay close to the railing, your hands aching from the cold, your back damp with fear. Somewhere behind you, Daniel is kneeling beside a little boy, 6, maybe 7, his cheeks streaked with tears. His mother has just boarded a lifeboat without him. She'll be back soon, Daniel tells him, his voice gentle, soft, like snow falling on water. But you both know that probably isn't true. The child stares ahead, not crying now, just waiting, just hoping. You're not sure what time it is. No one is. The clocks might still be ticking in the captain's quarters above the dining saloons, tucked into corners of first-class parlors. But those hands mean nothing anymore. Time feels different now, stretched, suspended, twisting itself around the silence, waiting for the ocean to make its final move. Beneath your feet, Titanic creaks again, deeper this time, a long low groan that rises through the deck like a warning whispered from below. You've heard people say that ships are alive, that they breathe and groan and sigh in their sleep. Tonight you believe it. Titanic is dying slowly, and she knows it. You hear someone murmur, the bow's nearly under, and when you look forward you see that it's true. The very front of the ship, where children once played, where couples laughed into the wind, is now slipping into the sea like it was always meant to disappear. There's no splash, no sudden drop, just a slow, steady surrender. The sea accepts her like an old friend. Help's coming, someone insists nearby. Carpathia's on her way, but another voice answers flat and hollow. Won't be here in time. Historians still debate that, whether Carpathia could have come faster, whether the Californian, just a few miles away, might have seen the flares if her wireless hadn't gone quiet for the night. Some say rescue was within reach, so close they could smell it, taste the salt of it. Others say fate had already made up its mind. But right now you're not thinking about fate. You're watching the lifeboats vanish into the dark. Some are half full, some nearly empty. The sea is calm, so calm you can hear the voices from them as they drift farther away. A baby crying, a woman whispering prayers, the creak of oars in quiet water. You want to scream. There's room. Come back, but you don't. You just stand there still and silent like a statue left behind. A steward rushes past carrying a little girl in his arms. Her dress is torn, no shoes. Her legs dangle swinging as he hurries. He looks around desperately. Has anyone seen her mother? He shouts. No one answers. He calls out louder. This girl, her name's Lily. Does anyone know her? Silence. You take a step forward. Not because you know her, but because someone has to. You raise your arms. The steward hesitates, then gently hands her to you as if passing a fragile bird. Her body is trembling, part cold, part fear. She clings to you instantly. No words, no questions. You don't ask for her story. There's no time for stories now. Daniel finds you again. His eyes widen when he sees Lily curled against you. You shake your head. He says nothing. The three of you move together now toward the last remaining boats somewhere near the second funnel. But the officers are shouting, "No more room." A man tries to push forward. A revolver is raised. A warning shot cracks through the night. The sound is sharp, final. It cuts through the air like a blade. Everyone stops moving. No one pushes anymore. No one begs. Even Lily is quiet. The officers lower the boat. Ropes groan. Wood creaks. A woman calls out for her sister. A man beside you whispers, "Tell my mother I didn't make it." And then the boat is gone. The deck feels emptier now. Not in people, but in hope. You sit down near a bench. You pull Lily close, her small head tucked beneath your chin. Daniel sits beside you. He doesn't speak. You don't need him to. Just a few hours ago, there was music and dancing, laughter, warm bread and tea, voices humming in the corridors. Now there's only breath, and the soft creak of a dying ship. Then another shift. This one is harder. Sudden, violent. The deck tilts. You slide several feet. Lily yelps. A scream pierces the air. Somewhere nearby, a railing snaps. A lifebuoy rolls past, bumping gently against your leg. People are running now. Some still believe they can reach the last collapsible boats near the bridge. Others run because it's the only thing left to do. You stay where you are. Daniel grabs your hand. It's shaking. Yours is too. Lily doesn't move. She just presses into your coat, silent as snowfall. A man runs past, clutching a Bible. Behind him, a priest murmurs prayers in Latin. You recognize a few words. Misericordia, Salvator, Anima, Mercy, Savior, Soul. You close your eyes. Somehow through it all, the music continues. Now it's not a waltz, it's a hymn. You don't know the name, but the melody aches. It moves slowly heavy with goodbye. Some say the final song played was Nearer My God to Thee. Others insist it was a waltz. Historians still argue over which melody played as the ship began her final descent. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it was both. One for the living, one for the dying. Above you the stars remain, unblinking, eternal. And then another lurch. worse than before. You rise instinctively. Daniel rises too, gripping Lily's hand. The tilt beneath your feet is impossible to ignore now. The bow is far underwater. The stern is lifting. The ship is straining. Still no rescue, no lights on the horizon, no shadows in the sea, only the stars, and the dark, and the silence between. You glance at Daniel. His face is calm, too calm, and that frightens you more than anything else. "Stay here," he says softly. You shake your head. "No," your voice is small, but steady. "We stay together." He nods. Lily begins to cry again, quietly, like she understands what's coming. You kneel down, wrap your arms around both of them. The deck beneath you is slick, freezing. Your knees ache. You can feel the vibrations as the ship groans again, louder, deeper. It's starting, really starting. Something massive is breaking, a sound not meant for human ears, a sound that echoes in your bones. And still, you are here. You are here for the moment when the unsinkable finally begins to sink. And above you, the stars watch it all in silence. The sound begins low, almost like thunder rolling across a far-off plain. Then it deepens, grows, shifts. A cracking, groaning, metal-twisting roar that climbs through your bones and grips your heart. Titanic is breaking. Not a splash, not a shudder. A scream of steel. A deep, wounded sound that cuts through the air and settles into your spine. You feel it before you understand it. You feel it before you hear it clearly. It's the sound of a giant remembering it is mortal. You tighten your grip on Lily, your knuckles white against the thin, torn fabric of her dress. Daniel is beside you, eyes wide, frozen in place, like he's become part of the ship itself. The deck trembles under your feet. The floor no longer feels steady. It tilts. Harder now. A porcelain plate skitters across the wood. It vanishes over the edge without a sound. Then a chair follows, and then a man. He doesn't scream until he's already gone. The lights flicker. Once, twice, they hold. Everyone stops breathing. No one says a word. You all wait, afraid the darkness will come next. It doesn't. Not yet. But you know it's close. Titanic's back is breaking. Historians still debate the exact moment. Some say it tore just above the third funnel. Others place the split near the fourth. A few insist it never truly broke, just bent until it crumpled. But you're here. Right now. You don't need a diagram. The ship cries beneath you. It groans like an animal too proud to show its pain. And you feel it in your bones. The fracture is real. Lily is shaking violently now. You crouch lower, pull her close, press her head into your chest. Her small body quivers. She doesn't speak, but the warmth spreading across your sleeve tells you she's crying. Daniel drops beside you. His voice is hoarse. "We need to move. We can't stay here." You turn. Behind you, a group of crewmen are dragging something across the deck. A collapsible lifeboat. It's upside down. Men shout. They slip. They heave. They curse at the cold. Daniel grabs your arm. "Come on," you run. Or try to. The deck tilts beneath your feet. Your boots skid. Lily's weight makes every step feel uncertain, but you don't stop. The cold is worse now. It bites through cloth and skin. It's not just cold anymore. It's a living thing with teeth and claws and hunger. You reach the lifeboat. A crowd is already there. Mostly men. Some stewards. Others just desperate. A few women faces blank with fear. Someone barks orders. "Lift it. Help lift it." Daniel jumps in to help. You pass Lily into the arms of an older woman, her face creased with age and terror. Then you throw your weight into the boat. Wood creaks. Your shoulder screams. Up, over, set. The ropes are tied in a rush. The boat isn't meant to launch like this. It looks more like a broken promise than a vessel of hope. But there's no time to question. Then a jolt. Sudden, violent. It throws you to the rail. Your head snaps back. Your ears ring. Someone screams, "It's going." And it is. The ship splits. A sound you'll carry forever. It's not just loud, it's vast. It sounds like mountains falling, like the earth cracking open, like God himself has drawn a line across the sea. You stare, frozen. The middle of Titanic rises, the stern shoots upward while the bow slides into the ocean. Just like that. Gone. A rush of air. A pillar of steam. A shudder in the bones of the world. Then stillness. Not peace, not quiet. Just a stillness too enormous to speak of. Then the stern crashes back. It slaps the sea hard. A wave explodes outward. Water rains over you. You're drenched. Salt on your lips. Ice in your clothes. The wave knocks Lily from the old woman's arms. You scramble. Find her. Hold her tighter than before. Daniel grabs your shoulder. We've got to move. We've got to get away from the split. You don't argue. The collapsible isn't ready, but there is no time. Men are yelling, get in now, get on, you move. Lily first, then you, then Daniel. The boat doesn't lower. It slides, unsteady, half in, half out. It creaks across the tilted deck toward the sea. People fall trying to board. Others back away. Too late, too steep. Behind you, Titanic rises again, but this time it's vertical. The stern points to the stars. Windows still glow with light. The great propellers shimmer in the starlight for one terrible moment, and then the lights die. All at once, the sky remains, cold and distant. The stars blink, but the ship is dark. And now the plunge begins. A final slide into black water. No resistance, no mercy. Steel meets sea. People scream, names echo, prayers rise, hands reach. You can't see them, but you hear them. The boat rises on a swell. You rock backward. The ocean lifts you as Titanic disappears. Down, down, down. No explosion, no roar, just a hush. Then silence. The sea settles as if nothing ever happened. But your ears still ring. Your mind still holds the image of the stern hanging in the sky. You look out. Dozens, maybe hundreds float in the water. Some alive, some silent. Some cry out. Others whisper, help. Please, I can't swim. One man lifts a violin above the surface. Another woman clutches her baby, her voice hoarse from pleading. You are still afloat, still in the collapsible. But your boat is full. The crew shouts, stay back, we'll capsize, you understand. But how do you turn away? Daniel is quiet beside you, his jaw clenched, his eyes fixed on the dark. Lily is curled in your lap again, sobbing softly now. Each breath a cloud in the air. The cold is getting worse. Not the kind you shiver through, the kind that steals breath, the kind that closes your eyes and whispers that sleep might be better. They'll call it hypothermia years from now. But tonight, it's just the end that comes without drowning. People fall silent, one by one, until the waves are the only sound left. You sit there, shivering, soaked, still, holding Lily, her small hand in yours. Daniel's arm around your shoulder. None of you speak. The place where Titanic stood is empty now. Just water and moonlight and a memory that will never leave. You don't cry, not yet. You simply look up. The stars have seen it all. They watch in silence. And in that silence, a knowing. This night, this sea, this moment, it will never be forgotten. The sea is calm now, unnaturally so. It lies smooth beneath you like glass that forgot how to ripple. Not a wave, not a whisper, just silence, wide and endless. You float in that silence adrift on open water, surrounded by fading cries. Scattered voices call into the night, but they grow fewer, softer, more distant until they vanish completely, one by one, as if the night is closing its hand over each sound, snuffing them out like candle flames in a long dark hallway. You hold Lily in your arms. She's still, heavy, soft as a rag doll soaked through. You don't know if she's sleeping, or worse, but you don't check. You just hold her tighter, rock her gently, and tell yourself she's breathing, that the rise and fall of your own chest is helping hers remember how to do the same. Daniel sits across from you, staring straight ahead. His jaw is clenched, his lips pale, his sleeves soaked through and clinging to his arms. His hair hangs limp against his forehead. He hasn't spoken since Titanic disappeared beneath the waves, and you understand. There's nothing left to say. The lifeboat drifts half full. Maybe a dozen people aboard, but no one meets your eyes. No one speaks of returning to the wreck site. No one dares. You all heard what the crew said, that the suction could drag you down, that a panicked man might tip the whole boat trying to climb aboard, that helping one might drown 10. So you drift, you shiver, you listen, you survive. Above the stars are still, bright, unmoving. They do not blink, they do not help, they just watch cold and indifferent. You look up at them and think, this is the same sky you saw through the porthole in your bunk room when everything felt so new, so exciting, so full of wonder. Now it feels like the sky is a witness and nothing more. The night drags on. Your arms ache, your legs have gone numb, your toes feel like tiny stones tucked into your boots. You can't tell if you're shivering from cold or from everything else. Other lifeboats drift nearby. You count them slowly, 1, 2, 3, 4. Dark shapes bobbing on the sea, outlined in the soft silver starlight. One carries women wrapped in heavy fur coats, their faces blank with shock. Another has men rowing silent oars, dipping in and out of the black water like the ticking of a slow broken clock. One boat is trying to sing. A hymn, you think. Voices rise, uneven and trembling, cracking from cold and grief. The sound wavers, shatters and fades again. But it stays with you, haunting and soft. You close your eyes and press your cheek to Lily's damp hair, and then from a few feet away, a voice whispers, "I think I see lights." You lift your head. Another voice joins in, urgent, shaking. There, on the horizon, a hum spreads through the boat. A kind of cautious, aching hope. You turn to look. At first you see nothing, just more sea, more stars, more dark. But then, yes, there it is, a faint glow, low, golden, like a buried sunrise. It flickers on the horizon, steady growing. Daniel leans forward. That's a ship. You squint. It gets clearer, brighter, more real. Not just a rumor, not just a promise. The Carpathia. She's real. She's here. Smoke trails behind her, a black ribbon across the stars. She's coming fast, but the sea is wide. It will take hours for her to reach you. Still now, you have direction. Now you have something to hold on for. A reason to shiver a little longer. When the Carpathia draws near, her deck glows like a beacon. Lanterns swing, voices call down. Ropes lower, blankets fall from the sky like soft salvation. One by one, the lifeboats approach. One by one, they are lifted. You watch the others go first. You see a woman refuse to release the frozen hand of her husband. She begs the crew to lift them together. A child screams when lifted from a lap, terrified to leave the arms that held him all night. You hear languages from every corner of the world. German, Italian, Swedish, French. A woman prays in Vietnamese, her fingers clutching a small book. Another whispers in Gaelic, barely moving her lips. Everyone wears the same expression. Pale, hollow, stunned. Finally, your turn comes. A rope ladder dangles. Two sailors reach out for Lily. You flinch protective, afraid. But Daniel places a hand on your shoulder. Let them. So you do. You pass her gently, so gently into waiting arms. Then you climb. Slowly. Every rung feels like a mountain. When your foot finally touches the deck, you're shaking. Not just from the cold, but from everything that has come before. A steward wraps a blanket around your shoulders. Another presses a tin cup into your hand. Warm broth. You don't drink. Not yet. You just breathe. Daniel helps you sit down. His hands are bleeding. The skin torn open raw from salt and rope. He doesn't seem to notice. A nurse brings Lily back to you. Swaddled. Still. Her face pale. You hold her close and the tears come. Not loudly. Not even with sobs. Just a quiet, steady stream that slides down your cheeks and disappears into her damp hair. The ship moves beneath you, carrying you away from the place where Titanic once sailed. Morning arrives slowly. The sky grays, the stars fade, the sea turns the color of slate. Where Titanic went down, there's nothing now. No wreckage, no floating chairs, no sign. It's as if she was never there. The Carpathia makes a slow, patient loop. Crew members call out names. Annie Kelly here. Thomas Mullins here. Some names go unanswered. You hold Lily tighter. 2 blankets now. Her body warmer. She stirs, her eyelids flutter. She looks at you. You smile. You're safe, you whisper. We made it. The words feel hollow. You know how many didn't. But you say them again anyway. We made it. Historians still argue about the numbers. They say around 700 survived. More than 1,500 did not. Some froze in the water. Some never escaped their rooms. Some were never even listed traveling under false names. The math never quite adds up. But here you are. A number, yes, but also a story. The Carpathia turns toward New York. The ocean parts before her bow. You see the deck now crowded with survivors. Blankets, empty stares. Hands that tremble too hard to hold anything. No one talks much. Some stare ahead. Some close their eyes and keep them closed until land appears. A few try to write letters, their handwriting barely legible. You stay close to Daniel. Your arms never far from Lily. No one comes to claim her. No mother, no father. Crew members ask gently, but you shake your head. Not now. Not yet. You'll keep her until someone says otherwise. Until she says otherwise. Days pass. You eat. You sleep. You cry more than you thought possible. And then land. New York Harbor. Reporters wait at the docks. Crowds gather. Some cry. Some cheer. Some hold photos in the air, searching for familiar faces. But you don't see them. You're not ready. You watch the harbor unfold with quiet eyes, your arms still wrapped around the child you saved. Titanic is gone. But you are not. You survived. And now somehow life must begin again. The city looms like a dream through the sea mist. You've imagined New York 1,000 times. Towers of brick and steel. Streets buzzing with life. Vendors shouting. Carriages weaving between horses and handcarts. But now as the Carpathia glides into the harbor, all you see is grey. Grey sky, grey sea, grey faces. They wait on the docks in black coats and thick scarves. Their mouths tight, their eyes wide, filled with hope, or fear, or both. You don't wave. No one in your lifeboat does. Even Daniel, who once joked about kissing the ground when you arrived, says nothing now. He rests one hand on your shoulder. The other grips the railing. His knuckles are white. Lily leans against your chest. She's asleep again. She hasn't spoken much since that night, but she clings to you. Always. Her small fingers wrap around your collar, like she's tethering herself to something safe. Dock workers secure the ship. Reporters push forward with notebooks and cameras. They shout questions, names, numbers, rumors. Most passengers keep their heads down. Some cry. Some whisper prayers. You step off the ship slowly. One foot on the gangplank, the other still uncertain. At the bottom, someone gives you bread and a warm drink. You take a sip, but barely taste it. Your mouth still remembers the cold. A woman from the Red Cross comes to help. She gently lifts Lily from your arms, wraps her more snugly in a wool coat, then looks up at you. Is she yours? You pause, just for a moment, then nod. Good, the woman says softly. She'll need someone to say so. Nearby, you see a bulletin board. Sheets of paper flap in the wind. Names written in thick black ink. Survivors, missing, crew, unidentified. People press forward to look. They scan the pages, hands trembling. You hear whispers all around you. He was supposed to be on that ship. She wasn't in steerage, was she? He didn't get on right, a woman screams. Another faints. Someone sobs when they find the name they feared most. You don't search for your name. You don't want to see it. Not on either list. Instead, you follow Daniel. Volunteers guide you to a waiting area. They've set up church pews in rows. Blankets folded neatly. Hot drinks offered with quiet voices. They ask for names. For family. For next of kin. Some passengers go to hospitals. Others are claimed by relatives. You, Daniel, and Lily sit in silence. You notice something odd. The air smells like coal smoke and salt, but also bread. There's a bakery stand nearby. And coffee. You hear people laughing as they walk past. Some carry groceries. Some talk about baseball scores. Others joke about the rain. Taxi drivers call out for fares. And you're still soaked to the skin, still holding fear in your bones, still hearing the ship break apart in your mind. The world didn't stop, but you did. Historians say New York wasn't ready, not for what happened. The wireless signals were garbled. The loss was too big to believe. Even after Carpathia radioed ahead, many still refused to accept it. When survivors stepped off the ship, the city wept, churches filled, theaters went dark, Crowds stood in silence, but within a few days, the headlines changed. Titanic hero dog saved owner. Millionaire's last words. Bride left alone on honeymoon. Stories poured out like floodwaters. The papers ran poems, sketches, photographs, but you weren't in them. Not you, not Daniel, not Lily. You faded into the streets, like ghosts walking in daylight. You spend the first few nights in a shelter. Warm beds, hot soup, shared silence. You meet others from steerage. A Norwegian man with cracked hands. He lost both brothers. A French girl who never speaks, but hums lullabies in the dark. An Irish widow. She holds her wedding ring like it's the last thing she owns. Everyone has a story. One woman says the captain stood still at the wheel as the water rose. Another says a rich man gave his coat to a child, then stepped back into the crowd. Was it Astor or Guggenheim, someone asks. No one knows, no one's sure, but it doesn't matter. You saw something brave, or needed to. Then one morning, Lily laughs. It's small, soft. Daniel had joked that her hair looks like seaweed, and she laughs, for the first time. It cracks something open inside you, like a window after a long winter. That night, your dreams change. No more freezing water, no more screaming, no more sinking steel. Instead, you dream of land, solid ground, a small house, a garden, a porch where the wind is gentle. It isn't much, but it's enough. In the days that follow, people come to help. A baker needs someone in the kitchen. An old man offers Daniel a job delivering papers. You say yes, not because you're ready, but because you can't stay still. You begin again, slowly, one shift at a time, one step forward, one deep breath. You write a letter home. You don't know if your parents are alive, or if the letter will reach them, but you write anyway. It's something to hold on to. Lily starts calling you mama by the end of the week. You don't correct her. No one else held her in the middle of the ocean. No one else rocked her to sleep in a lifeboat. Daniel finds a tiny apartment, just one room, but clean. There's a window that catches the morning light, a little table, a cracked sink, and quiet. You move in together, not as husband and wife, not yet, just as survivors, trying to feel like people again. It's not the life you planned when you bought that ticket, but it's warm, it's safe, and it's yours. You keep a small newspaper clipping under your pillow. It shows the ship, just a sketch. The headline reads, Titanic's Last Stand. Sometimes you take it out and unfold it. You trace the lines, the outline of the ship that carried so many dreams. You whisper names, sometimes just one, sometimes many, and then you sleep, because the worst is over, and morning always comes. Spring fades into summer. The city warms and so do you. Each morning before the sun even rises, you wake to the soft creak of floorboards beneath your feet. You boil water on a tiny black stove that ticks quietly as it heats. The kettle whistles. Steam fogs the chipped window above the sink. Lily is still sleepy when you tie back her hair with a frayed blue ribbon, but she doesn't complain. She leans into your hands, her small face tilted upward, trusting. Daniel's already gone by then. His paper cart rattling along the cobblestone streets, its wheels clicking in rhythm with the waking city. He's a blur in the dawn light, shouting headlines to people who barely glance his way. The city doesn't remember your story, and somehow that's perfectly fine. You're not here to be remembered, you're here to live. The boarding house kitchen is already alive when you arrive. Pans clang, toast burns. Voices tumble over one another, English, Irish, Italian, Polish, 100 accents all mixing together like soup in the big metal pot. You slip into your apron, you scrub pans until your fingers wrinkle, you sweep the floor, peel potatoes, wipe counters. Some mornings, if you're lucky, you get to stir the soup. And when no one's looking, you sneak a slice of apple from the pie tray, still warm, just tart enough to make your mouth pucker. It isn't glamorous, but it's steady. And in its own quiet, decent way, it's good. You still dream of the Titanic sometimes. Dark water, that awful rushing sound, the way the deck tilted toward the sky, stars spinning above you. But more and more, your dreams are changing. Now you dream of laughter echoing through narrow halls, of music drifting from a string quartet's gentle bow, of a girl in a gingham dress skipping past bunk beds singing softly about faraway lands. You dream of what you had, not just what you lost. One evening after supper, Daniel brings a bit of news. He steps through the door with his shoulders tight and a folded newspaper in hand. They're planning an inquiry, he says. His voice is low, as if afraid to wake something sleeping. You pause in your knitting. About the ship, you ask. He nods. The US Senate. They want answers. About lifeboats. About the warnings. About who knew what and when. The words fall heavy in the room. Neither of you speaks for a long time. It makes sense, of course. Too many questions still hang in the air, like the breath you held that night, waiting for help that came too late. People are angry, grieving, searching for someone to blame. Some point at Captain Smith, some at the White Star Line. Some whisper about JP Morgan and his cancelled voyage. Others say the iceberg wasn't the villain at all. Historians still argue whether it was design or pride that doomed the ship. Too few lifeboats, a tragic oversight, or something more deliberate. And what about those locked gates? Did they really trap steerage passengers below? Or is that just the story we've told ourselves, because believing it was fate is somehow harder? The truth, like the ship, rests somewhere deep. That summer, testimonies begin to fill the papers. You read them slowly, lips moving, eyes scanning every name. Some you recognize. Men from your bunk room. A steward who once joked about mustaches. A girl who wore green on Sundays. One steward describes the confusion on E-deck, how the lights flickered, how water spread like spilled oil, how people slipped on the cold tiles. A fireman testifies about the boiler rooms, about the black water rising faster than they could run. A nurse speaks of lifeboats lowered half empty. And then one line catches you, stays with you. We were told third class was safest down below. That's why we stayed. You read it twice, 3 times, and then you sit with that sentence a long, long time. So much turned on one moment. One voice, one direction, one decision. You were lucky. So cruelly, absurdly lucky. The inquiry makes little change in the moment. But over time, the rules begin to shift. More lifeboats on every vessel. Mandatory drills. Wireless radios monitored around the clock. Ice patrols organized to watch the northern seas. Little things, but they matter. Changes built from sorrow. Changes bought with names like yours. And you wonder, quietly hopeful, whether Lily will grow up in a world that learns. The apartment smells different now, like fresh bread and coffee grounds. Daniel found work in a bakery after his paper route ended. He comes home with loaves that steam. When broken, their crusts still warm, the scent sweet and soft. You eat dinner together at the tiny wooden table, knees bumping. Sometimes you laugh. Sometimes you cry without warning. Sometimes you just sit in silence, watching the candle burn lower and lower until only the wick glows. You light that candle every night, even when the evenings are hot and long. Not just for light, but for memory. In September, you walk with Lily to a small park near the river. The trees rustle gently, leaves starting to yellow. You stand near the edge, looking out over the water. You don't see the ship, but you see the sky above it. The same sky that watched you drift on a lifeboat, arms wrapped around a little girl who hadn't yet decided if she would live. She stands beside you now, her hand in yours. She hums a little tune, nothing in particular, just a thread of sound. You smile at her, and feel something warm, something healing begin to root in your chest. On the walk home, you pass a newsstand. The headlines scream of war in the Balkans, of women marching for the vote, of skyscrapers taller than anything imagined. Titanic is barely mentioned now. Just a paragraph, a footnote. Time is moving, and finally so are you. One evening, Daniel surprises you. He kneels on the worn kitchen floor, not with a ring, not with roses, but with something carved from driftwood. A small boat, its hull smoothed and sanded. Its tiny sail made from a handkerchief. Not exactly first class, he says, eyes uncertain. You laugh softly. Neither are we. You don't say yes. You don't need to. Your answer is already written in the quiet between you. The following spring, you marry. No grand affair. Just a chapel with creaky pews, dusty stained glass, and a minister with a gentle smile. Lily scatters flower petals across the aisle. Her dress is too big, but her joy is enormous. The officiant stumbles over your names, but no one minds. Outside, a bell rings from a passing trolley. Children cheer nearby. The world is noisy and full of life. You step into it arm in arm, and for a moment it feels like your feet haven't quite touched the ground, like you're still floating just a little. But then the wind shifts. A bird cries overhead, and you're back, solid, here, alive. You keep Daniel's carved boat on the shelf above the stove. Next to a photograph, someone gave you a blurry black and white image of the Titanic leaving Southampton. She looks proud in the photo, almost defiant, invincible. You stare at her sometimes and wonder if she knew. If ships can feel the shape of their stories before they begin. Or if, like all of us, they simply hope for something better. You whisper your thoughts into the steam of the kettle, into the bubbling of the stew, into the warm air that now fills the corners of your home. Life goes on, not in fireworks or parades, but in tea towels, in open school books, in socks mended by hand, in bread cooling on the windowsill, in a child's sleepy kiss on your cheek before bed. The kind of life you dreamed of back when the sky was endless and the sea had swallowed the stars. Now that dream belongs to you. You earned it. Not because fate was kind, but because you kept choosing it. Every day. To stay. To love. To keep going. To begin again. And again. And again. You don't talk about the Titanic often. Not because you've forgotten, but because remembering takes effort. It tugs at you sometimes quietly. Like the sway of a ship you're no longer on. In the rustle of the trees outside your window. In the hiss of the kettle, in the creak of the apartment floorboards late at night when the world is sleeping and the city breathes low and slow. You never forget. You simply choose when to remember. One afternoon, years later, Lily asks a question out of nowhere. You're standing at the sink. Sunlight spills through the window like warm syrup. The water runs over your hands full of suds and steam. And then behind you, her small voice lifts into the air. Mama, did we almost die on a boat? She's older now. 7. Sharp as a tack. Curious. You pause your hands still in the dishwater. Then slowly you turn. Wipe your hands on your apron. And meet her eyes. Soft brown. So much like yours. Yes, baby, you say gently. We did. She doesn't flinch. She just stands there thinking about it. Really thinking. Then she asks, were you scared? You can't help but smile. Terrified, you reply. She chews on that answer like it's candy, mulling it over, then shrugs satisfied. I'm glad we didn't, she says, and just like that, she turns and skips off again, giggling at something Daniel says in the next room, as if it was just another question, just another answer. It's always like that. The memory lingers, but it doesn't chain you. It doesn't drag you down. It floats. It surfaces like a bubble from deep water, rising slowly, shimmering, briefly, then popping into air. You learn to live beside it, not under it. Some survivors talk about it often. They give interviews, they testify, they write memoirs filled with every detail, every moment. Others stay silent, forever. You've always found yourself somewhere in between. You share your story, when it matters. Not for attention, not for headlines, but for healing, for meaning. Like the time a neighbor's boy cried during a storm, frightened by the thunder shaking the windows. You sat beside him and said quietly, that ocean once cracked louder than the sky. He blinked, looked at you and stopped crying. Or the time a girl from the bakery lost her mother. She refused to leave her bed, wouldn't speak, wouldn't eat. So you sat beside her and whispered just one sentence, I lost everything once, and I still stood up the next morning. She looked at you with hollow eyes. But the next day, she was up. That's the thing about surviving. It isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It's not about knowing the right thing to do when the ship starts to sink. It's about standing up the next morning, and the one after that, and the one after that. The newspapers eventually stopped writing about the ship, except of course on anniversaries. Each April, you catch a small headline tucked inside page 6. 10 years since Titanic. Survivors remember. Could it happen again? You read the stories, the names, the facts you know so well they've become part of your bones, and sometimes you cry. One April, a journalist knocks at your door. She's young, polite, holding a small notebook and a heart full of wonder. She stands there on the steps, a little breathless, a little nervous. She asks if you remember that night. You nod. Of course you do. She asks if you'll talk about it. You hesitate for a moment, then quietly invite her in. You make her tea. You sit by the window, and you tell her everything, not the drama, not the headlines, but the true things, the quiet things, the feel of cold metal under your bare feet, the groan of the hull as it twisted in the deep, The smell of wet wool and coal smoke and seawater. The hush of the lifeboat rocking beneath stars so bright they seem to hum. She listens carefully. Her pen barely moves, but her eyes never leave your face. Then at last, she asks the question they all eventually ask. What was it like, she says softly, when you knew the ship was gone? You close your eyes, take a slow breath, and say it was like a piece of the world had been scooped out and dropped into the dark, and we were just floating on the edge of it. She doesn't print that line. Too poetic maybe, but you remember her face as she left. The way her eyes filled with tears. How she reached for your hand quietly, like someone offering thanks in silence. That night you find Lily's old ribbon tucked inside a book. The gingham one. She wore it in the lifeboat. It's soft now, the color faded, but the fabric is still strong. You hold it for a long time, your fingers smoothing its edges, and you think I kept this child alive. You, the girl who once knew nothing of steamships or stars or loss. You kept her alive, and she grew. She became a woman. She marries in spring, under a sky full of blossom. The trees are bursting with pinks and whites. She wears a dress you helped sew, walks down the aisle to a tune someone hums on a fiddle. Her husband is kind, gentle, a baker's son with warm hands and patient eyes. She kisses your cheek before leaving for her honeymoon, and whispers, "Thank you for being my boat." You cry a long time after that. Daniel holds you. He doesn't say anything, because some feelings are too deep for words. Years pass, then decades. Your hair goes grey, your joints grow stiff. The apartment becomes too much. Too many stairs, too many memories. So you move into a smaller place, simpler, quieter. You don't take much, but you keep 3 things. The carved wooden boat Daniel gave you, the faded photograph of the Titanic taken just before she sailed, and Lily's ribbon. They sit together on a small shelf, 3 soft echoes of everything you've carried. One day a grandchild finds the boat, a girl with your eyes. She holds it up curious. "What's this?" she asks. You take it in your hands, run your fingers along its little hole that you say is a memory you weren't alive for, but that helped make you. She stares at it, wide-eyed, full of questions, and so gently you tell her, not to frighten her, but to show her what people can endure and still love afterward. That night you sleep deeply. No dreams, just warmth, a steady quiet, the calm of a soul at rest. You know deep in your bones that you did what you had to do. You lived, not because the sea spared you, but because you kept walking, because you kept singing lullabies even in lifeboats, because you kept waking up, because love always found a way back to you, even when it came soaked in salt water and wrapped in silence, even when it came late. You made a life, not a perfect one, but one full of small kindnesses and soft mornings and the kind of peace that blooms slowly like spring through frost. And now as the candlelight flickers low, you let the memory drift. Not away, but gently to the side. You no longer carry it on your shoulders. You carry it in your breath, in your heartbeat, in your daughter's hands, in your granddaughter's questions. It lives in them now, and in the quiet rocking hush of the night, you let yourself rest. Fully, finally, completely. The seasons keep circling. One after another, they pass like soft footsteps through the halls of time. Snow hushes the rooftops in winter. Rain taps gently on your windows in spring. Summer heat rises from the wooden floors, making them creak beneath your bare feet. And autumn, oh, autumn carries the scent of memories, like paper leaves falling through golden light. And you remain, smaller perhaps, quieter, but still here. Sometimes you sit by the window in your rocking chair, a blanket tucked around your legs, a cup of tea cooling in your hand. And you think about salt water, not with fear, not anymore. You just remember it. That smell, that sting, that enormous, endless presence that once held your life like a coin flipped into the dark. You wonder now and then what became of the ship's bones. They say it lies beneath 2 miles of icy pressure split in 2, surrounded by suitcases and shoes, by broken teacups and silence. They say metal-eating bacteria are slowly devouring it, turning steel into lace. Time doing what it always does. Historians still argue. Some say the wreck should be left untouched, a sacred grave. Others say it should be raised, studied, preserved, displayed in glass boxes under museum lights. You're not sure. Some memories aren't meant to be lifted. Some things deserve to rest in the dark, and yet you understand. You understand the need to see it again, to touch the thing that changed everything, to look it in the eye and say, I remember. One afternoon, your daughter visits with her youngest girl. She's maybe 10. Wild curls, a voice like wind chimes, bright eyes that never stop moving. She sits at your feet, legs crossed, head tilted, and she asks Grandma, do you still dream about the Titanic? You blink slowly, then nod, sometimes. What's it like? You look at her for a long moment, and then you say, it was big and beautiful, and it sank, but before it did, I danced. She tilts her head. You danced. You smile. I did. She grins. Cool. And that's it. No fear, no pity, no sorrow. Just a child hearing something simple and true, that even in tragedy there was joy. Even in loss there was laughter. Even in the dark there were songs. That night you take out the old photo box. It's kept beneath your bed, a little dusty, but it opens like a door. Inside are clippings, ticket stubs, yellowed letters, and one menu carefully folded, water-stained but still legible. A third-class dinner. Boiled potatoes, roast beef, plum pudding. The ink has faded, but the memory hasn't. You remember that meal, sitting beside your bunkmates, balancing the metal tray on your knees, laughing at how the carrots tasted like soap, listening as someone sang while serving dessert. And for one perfect moment you felt rich, not in money, but in possibility. It's strange what stays with you. Not the panic, not the chaos, not the sound of water swallowing steel, but the small silly comforts. A warm spoon, a bunkmate's gentle snore, a smile passed between strangers who would never meet again. You close the box and slide it back beneath the bed. Maybe someday your granddaughter will find it. Maybe she'll open it with those curious hands and see the ghost of you tucked inside. Maybe she'll write your story down in her own words, turning it into something new. Because that's how stories survive. They travel, they transform, they bloom in fresh voices, and the tale of the Titanic, of the ship that couldn't sink and did, will bloom again. Of the rich who paid, and the poor who paid more dearly. Of the survivors who stepped into the silence and kept walking. You're not afraid of being forgotten. Not anymore. Because the truth is, you never really disappear, not when you've whispered your story to someone who listens. And she did. She listened. The world outside continues. Buses sigh down the street. Radios hum in the neighbors' windows. Letters arrive, are opened slowly. You live in rhythms now. Tea, a slow walk to the window, a nap beside the heater. Daniel is gone. It was quiet. He passed in the spring with cherry blossoms blooming outside your window. You held his hand and told him about the boat again. Not the one in the sea, but the little carved one he gave you years ago. He smiled, just barely. I still remember the stew, he whispered. And then he was quiet. You keep his photograph beside your bed. His hat tilted too far. His smile forever crooked. Some nights you talk to him. About the children. The world. What you cooked for dinner. You tell him how Lily's husband fixed the leaky roof last week, even though he swore he didn't know a hammer from a toothbrush. You think Daniel would have liked that story. You imagine him chuckling, rolling his eyes, shaking his head. On the anniversary of the sinking, you light a candle. Not out of habit, not for ritual, just out of respect. You sit in the hush of your little room and let the flame flicker against the glass, casting soft gold shadows that sway like lanterns on the sea. So many years have passed, so many lifetimes, and yet part of you is still that girl. That girl standing on the deck, wrapped in a coat, two thin eyes wide as the stars blinked above and the ship tilted below. You didn't know how long the night would last. You didn't know what waited on the other side, but you held on, you sang, and you lived. That's the part you want your grandchildren to know, that you weren't just a passenger, you were a singer in the dark, a bearer of stories, a lighthouse in a lifeboat. You weren't just lucky, you were brave, and when the world said sink, you answered no. I float. That's the part that matters. That's the story you leave behind. Not the ship, not the ocean, not the disaster, but the singing, the kindness, the courage to keep rowing even when the sea was cold and the sky was full of ghosts. That's what you pass on. That's what lives on in every curious question, in every quiet bedtime, in every girl with wild curls who wants to know how the story ends. It doesn't end with the ship. It ends with you, still here, still singing, still carrying a little flame through the dark. The sky is soft with dusk when you hear the knock at your door. Not urgent, not loud, just the sound of someone with time. You rise slowly, your knees creaking like the hull of an old ship, one hand against the wall for balance, one slow breath to steady yourself. The air smells like bread and lilacs, and for a moment you almost expect no one to be there at all. But when you open the door, she's standing there. A young woman, early 20s maybe, crisp notebook in hand, eyes full of reverence, hopeful, soft. "Hi," she says. "I'm doing my thesis on immigrant survival stories." She hesitates as if she's not quite sure you'll say yes. "Someone told me you were there." You don't answer right away. You tilt your head, listening to a wave you haven't heard in a long while. And then you nod. She asks if she can sit with you. You say yes. So she settles at the edge of your couch, legs crossed politely, pencil poised. You stay in your rocking chair, hands folded gently in your lap, one thumb rubbing the other like it always does when the past is near. She asks careful questions. Where were you born? What made you leave? What brought you to America? And then, like so many before her, she leans in a little closer. Her voice softens, and she whispers, "What was it like, really?" On the Titanic, you don't give her facts. She can find those in books. You give her textures, the scuff of worn boots in a narrow corridor, the strange comfort of the ship's low hum beneath your pillow, the way everything smelled of coal and tea and old salt. You tell her how people laughed and flirted and sang in 6 different languages at once. You tell her how for so many of you the Titanic wasn't just a ship, it was a promise, a ladder, from dirt floors to painted ceilings, from no to maybe, from never to someday. You smile a little. Third class wasn't miserable, you say gently. It was hopeful. Yes, it was crowded, but it was full of people who still believed with all their hearts that the best parts of their lives hadn't happened yet. She scribbles that down, her brow furrowed in thought. You can see her trying to hold it all. She asks about the night the ship went down, and you pause, because this part must carry weight. You take a slow breath, let the silence settle, then begin. You tell her how the cold hurt worse than the fear, how you couldn't feel your hands anymore, but you could still hear the babies crying, how some people shouted and others were just quiet, too quiet, already halfway gone. Historians still argue, you say, about how long the lights stayed on. Some say they blinked out early, others swear they glowed until the very end. You look toward the window where dusk is thickening into night. I think, you say slowly, I think maybe they flickered in waves, like the ship was trying to hold on, like she didn't want to let us go. The young woman looks up, eyes wide, not blinking. You say it again, softer this time, like a lullaby. She didn't want to let us go. She stays for a while longer, long enough for the stars to blink on outside, long enough for your tea to go cold beside you. At the end, she touches your hand, thanks you, promises to write your story carefully, as if it matters, and it does. After she leaves, you sit in the quiet, let it wrap around you like an old quilt, and you think, that's what the Titanic became in the end. Not just a tragedy, but a tapestry, woven from thousands of voices, big and small, rich and poor, some loud, some whisper soft, some written in grand libraries, and others like yours handed down through tea time stories and bedtime sighs. You rise slowly, go to your dresser, pull open the top drawer. You take out your diary, a little leather book older than the tree outside your window. You don't write much these days, but tonight something stirs in you. Something settles in your chest like peace, like a warm tide returning. You open to a blank page, and you write, I remember salt and smoke. I remember singing to stay calm. I remember choosing not to panic. I remember saving my child. You pause, smile, and add one more line, I remember living. You close the book. Hold it against your heart for a moment. Outside, the sun slips behind the rooftops. The sky turns purple and bruised gold, just like the Atlantic that night, just before it swallowed the last lights. You get up, move to the kitchen, put the kettle on. Jasmine tea, your favorite. It smells like spring, like the gardens you always meant to grow, like something soft surviving the frost. You pour a cup, sit in your chair, hold it close, letting the steam rise into your face. You close your eyes, and for just a moment you imagine the ship whole again. You see her long and proud, her bow cutting clean through the sea. laughter echoing through her corridors, musicians tuning up their instruments. In third class, waiters bring trays one dish at a time. Boiled beef, rice soup, fresh bread. Not much, but warm. And enough. You picture every face. The Irish mother with twins, the Greek boy with the wooden flute, the French couple who dance barefoot in the dining room. You see them all frozen in that last good hour, before the crack, before the tilt, before the long plunge into memory. And softly you whisper to them, I remember you. Not because the world asked you to, but because they deserve to be remembered. Every single one. You take another sip of tea, let it rest on your tongue. It tastes like spring again, like jasmine and gentleness, like life still blooming after all this time. You breathe deeply, and the story stays with you. Not just yours, but all of theirs too. A shared story, a sacred one, the kind that must be spoken to stay alive. And tonight, just tonight, you feel certain that someone will keep telling it. Gently, faithfully, like holding a candle in both hands. Because stories don't end, they echo, and your voice, a quiet one, but steady, joins the great low hum of all those who lived and sang and remembered. You don't tell many people about the letter. It came years ago in a plain envelope, yellowed at the edges. No return address. Just your name scrawled in a slanted hand that wavered like a ship at sea. Inside, there was only a single sheet of paper. No greeting, no signature, just one sentence centered on the page. I saw you hold the baby and sing thank you. That was all. You sat still for a long while after reading it, your hands resting on your lap, heart beating louder than the clock. Then quietly you placed the letter inside your old diary, tucked it behind pages filled with little memories, scraps of poems, pressed petals, half-finished drawings from a life you once held tighter. You never found out who sent it, never traced the handwriting, never asked, but somehow you knew. Someone else from the boat, someone who made it too. Maybe from a different lifeboat, maybe someone you barely noticed, just a pale face in the blur of chaos. But they saw you, and remembered, and that more than anything else is what humbles you. In all this talk of classes and cabins and numbers, someone remembered a song. Not your name, not your bunk number, not even where you were standing, just that you sang. And somehow, that simple act, a lullaby whispered into the night, carried through the cold. Even now that thought settles in your chest like a warm stone. Sometimes we survive because someone gives us soup. Sometimes we survive because someone whispers a song into the dark. The years have kept moving, so many of them. The headlines have changed. New tragedies, new names, other ships with their own stories. But Titanic stays. Not just because it was big, not even because it shocked the world. It stays because it revealed something about us, about people, about how we behave when the night turns cold and the water rises and there's no clear path home. You once overheard someone say the ship died because of pride. You're not so sure. You think maybe. It lived because of hope. It carried it, carved it into every banister, tucked it between the linens in steerage, folded it into each heartbeat that boarded with trembling hands and one suitcase. Hope in the form of children clutching their travel papers. Hope in the form of sisters braiding each other's hair on the deck as the ship set off. Hope in the hush of third-class cabins at night when strangers exhaled in rhythm, thousands of hearts beating together. Strangers, yes, but not alone. You get tired more easily now. Your hands ache some mornings. Your knees remind you that you've walked far. Some nights your body feels more sea than land. Fluid, unsteady, drifting with the tide. And that's okay. You know you won't be here forever, but you're not afraid, because your story's out there now, in ink, in voices, in quiet classrooms and cozy bedtime readings, in songs sung softly to daughters and grandsons and whoever still listens. You once read that people still leave flowers at Titanic memorials, little bouquets, paper notes, ribbons tucked gently between the cold names etched in stone. Some flowers float away with the wind, others stay pinned by frost and love. You like that image, something soft left behind for something hard. A gesture, a remembrance. The ship was lost, but not everything sank. You remember once hearing a man say that steerage passengers were the shadows of the Titanic. You nearly laughed. Shadows, you were its heartbeat. You were the ones who packed your lives into a satchel, kissed your homes goodbye, and dared to believe in something better. You were the ones who laughed loudly in small cabins, who braided hair and poured tea and whispered lullabies into the dark. You sang, you nursed, you hoped out loud. That wasn't shadow work, that was light. And when no one else noticed, you noticed each other. You whisper that to yourself sometimes, a quiet song of truth. And on the rare nights when sleep won't come, when the wind taps at the glass just right, when the pipes rattle like ropes in the dark, you drift backward to the dining hall. Third class, wooden benches, forks tapping tin, the hiss of cabbage steam, a heel softly keeping time under the table. You remember Daniel, trying to pour tea with hands too large for the cup. Your bunkmate humming a hymn that was always a little flat and perfectly sweet. You remember the first night on deck, the sea black and silver stretched wide beneath a bruised sky, and the thought that crossed your mind, this is it. This is how it begins. And it was. Not the way you thought, but a beginning all the same, because you lived, you carried it, and you passed it on. Not just survival, but story, and song, and the gentle stubborn belief that even the poorest among us carry beauty, and worth, and dreams worth remembering. That's what third class gave to history, and what you gave to the stars. And now as the candle lowers, as the sea inside you calms into stillness, you breathe, slowly, softly, like a lullaby after the last verse, like waves that no longer crash but sigh against the hull of time. Tonight you don't need to explain anything. You don't need to relive the cold or the ache. You don't even need to be strong. You only need to float. Drift back into your warm room. The bed that doesn't rock. The light that doesn't flicker. The walls that hold you like arms. You've told your story, and that in itself is enough. Let the images fade now. The boots on the wooden deck, the spoon tapping against the bowl, the stars over the dark Atlantic. Let them dissolve into a blur of gold and blue and black. No more waiting, no more remembering, just the hush. You did it. You made it to the other side of the night. You gave voice to those who never could, and now your only task is rest. Let your breath grow long. Let your shoulders soften. Let the hush cradle you. The ship is gone, but you remain, gentle, strong, still singing even in sleep. Sweet dreams, traveler. You've come so far. Now close your eyes and let the sea hold you gently like it never could before. End of script. Sweet dreams.